All right, welcome back. If you are coming back, welcome. Glad you're here. Chapter 6. Let's talk about the best loser wins. Okay, that's why I decided to do this because I am one of the best losers out there. Just kidding. But the premise of this book has just changed my day trading forever. Okay, and this is where I found success. All right, I have the golden strategies. A lot of people have the golden strategies, but very few can implement them. All right, so let's talk about it. Chapter 6, detailed breakdown. It's you versus you. This is what I tell people. I've literally, excuse me, handed my strategy to people and they can't implement it. Okay, because it's you versus you. There's days I take my own strategy, hand it to myself, and I can't implement it correctly. Okay, I revenge trade, I FOMO, I do these. I still do these things sometimes. Okay, I even got a video coming up where I'm going to share like a bad day that I had, in a funded account. And yeah, it hurt, but man, I barely was able to scrape by getting control and got back into the groove. Okay, it's me versus me. So in chapter 6, Hougaard brings the focus sharply onto personal responsibility. He states plainly that the greatest obstacle of trading success is not the market, the broker, outside conditions. It's the trader themselves. It is a direct confrontation. It is you versus you. Most traders spend time blaming strategies, circumstances, systems, coffee, but very few are willing to put up a mirror and ask, am I the one in my own way? Okay. You guys wonder where some of the phrases I get. This guy Tom speaks directly to me. Okay. I legit one time blamed coffee. I made a video about it. I mean, it was kind of funny, but it was kind of true. Like I got really hopped up on some caffeine and coffee, and I said, man, that really like messed with my emotions and it didn't allow me to make logical decisions. I'm gonna try not to have like coffee or Red Bull before I trade. Man, what a silly thing, right? Like, but I had someone in my life who was like, hey, are you blaming the coffee and not taking responsibility for your own decisions? I was like, why, yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. I didn't want to shoulder the blame for the bad decisions. So I wanted to find something to blame. Okay? Like I've shared, I don't like being wrong. I love being right. Okay? So, seriously, start taking responsibilities for your own decisions. All right? He emphasizes that real progress begins when you stop outsourcing blame and start taking full accountability for every decision, reaction, and pattern. The shift is crucial. Not only when traders accept their results are 100% their responsibility, they can begin to take the necessary steps for true growth. Okay? So there's some really, really, really good books out there on taking full responsibility. There's one that was written by a Navy SEAL and Extreme Ownership. Okay, great book. No, it's not about trading, but yes, it applies to this. Okay, even if you are taking signals, Tom Hougaard posts public signals. Most people can't follow them. Okay, and there's a reason behind that, because they don't have the same mindset he does. They don't have the same self-control he does. He has spent a huge part of his career training himself in this area. Okay. And, a lot of people want to blame the strategy, blame this person, that person, this signal, blame this EMA, this tweet, this news, whatever. Okay. But all I can say is when you go back and you look at news announcements, guess what they follow? Market structure. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little wild. It's a little crazy, but you know that going in, right? So it's just really important that we take full ownership of our own trades. And when we make a mistake, we own it. Okay. And it's good to be like, oh man, I knew that was a FOMO trade. I shouldn't have taken it, instead of being like, man, that tweet, like if I had just, done this and that tweet didn't happen, it wouldn't have stopped me out and I would have been in profit. Just take responsibility for it. Every single trade, every single decision you make, and own it. And then, like he says, you will be able to start taking the necessary steps for growth. Okay? So this chapter encourages an honest audit of one's trading habits, emotional tendencies, and responses to stress. Okay? I know if I'm stressed out at work, I don't trade, period. All right. I have like emotional tendencies. If I get kicked out of a trade that I know should be going in my direction, yet again, you hear that? That I know should be going in my direction. Okay. We don't know nothing. All right. What emotional tendencies do I have? I tend to want to revenge trade or FOMO into the opposite trade or something. Okay. So we have to do an honest audit. Take the time and audit yourself, audit your trading tendencies, your behaviors, your emotional responses. You know, I said this in another video, but I literally talked to a guy who like punched his screen and would like keyboard smash, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, like, wow, that's pretty emotional. But I said, you know, it's better to get it out that way. I would find something, you know, like a punching bag or something, you know, that you don't have to keep replacing your keyboard or your monitor. But you know, getting that emotion out and processing it is one way of moving forward because you can let it out. You can run around really quick. You can do a bunch of, you know, make yourself do burpees or something if you do something wrong, or do some push-ups. You know, get a physical trigger going, and that way you can release that stress and then come back and sit down and think logically about the next decision. Okay. All right. So traders are urged to stop seeking external fixes and start doing the hard internal work. Excuse me. The internal work, the inside work, the you work, the emotional work, to talk to yourself, to be your own coach, critic, and strategist, which he says in the next sentence here. Well, this review. Seriously, this is the kind of stuff that really pushed me through that barrier, right? Of, like I said, paying for a hobby of day trading versus making money, right, as this hobby, which, you know, is turning into a, you know, a professional career. So traders are urged to stop seeking external fixes. You can't go to YouTube and watch more educational video to fix yourself. Okay. Especially if you are all FOMO and all revenge trade. I don't care how much you learn, you're not going to make it. Right. And that's not a disencouraging statement. All right. You need to focus on the FOMO. You need to focus on the emotion that's going on. I mean, I feel it. I literally had a day recently that like I almost blew it. And I had to really dig deep to be like, you know where this path goes, man. Don't go down it. Let it go. Take an L for the day and move on. And I did. And I'm starting a recovery, but I'm going to have to watch it, right? Because if I recover and I get back up into all-time highs in a funded account, I'm ready to pull another payout. Am I going to be emotionally like, yeah, look at me. Look at me. I know what I'm doing. And am I going to become overconfident? And is that going to get me? It's a constant battle, right? And, you know, you think about like athletes, they think this way. They train themselves this way. Navy SEALs, like they're training themselves to have logical responses in a crazy emotional situation. So that way they can, in a sense, feel the emotion, but not let it take them over, right? Because you can't ever become an emotionalist trader. I don't think you ever can. I don't think you can be like, oh, I'm just going to trade like a robot. If I feel an emotion, I squash it, put it on the shelf. I don't think that's healthy, because emotion is there for a reason, right? How I respond to that is what makes the difference. So start doing the hard work internally. All right. Success will come to a trader when the trader becomes their own coach, critic, and strategist. All right. I've said this before in another video. You know, when you go to Real Smart Money, right, and you step onto a trading floor, they're going to have a manager that's watching the traders, and they're watching the emotional responses of the trader. And if a trader is getting like super emotionally, you know, like having issues, guess what? Hey, man, why don't you go home for the day? You know, take a break, come back a few days, right? They'll get sent home, or they'll get sent to a workshop, or they'll call in someone like Tom Hougaard and be like, hey, will you talk to our traders? There's been a little bit of a, you know, a lot of emotion on the floor, and, you know, we need to get this coached out. Things like that, right? So you have to become your own coach, critic, and strategist. So these huge like not prop firms, I'm sorry, smart money places, right? Trading floors. They have a coach or they have like a manager that oversees the floor. And then they'll have like a strategist. They'll have a person who is like the best TA you've ever seen. And then they might have somebody who actually does the actual trade and actually puts on the trade and takes off the trade and takes profit and does this and does that, right? Multiple people working. Well, when you're your own person and you're day trading at home, guess what? You're all that. Okay, so you have to learn to coach yourself and criticize yourself and be your own strategist. It's important. All right. So let's talk about some ways that we can actually apply this. Okay, so self-reflection prompts. What have I blamed for my losses in the past? I've definitely blamed my strategy. I have definitely blamed the news. I have blamed coffee, which was just kind of silly, but it revealed. I just didn't want to be wrong, so I found something to shoulder the blame. All right. What behaviors or habits do I avoid owning? When I FOMO, do I find something else to blame instead of the FOMO? Right? When I have a bad day, I'm like, man, that was just a bad day. It was terrible price action. I hear that a lot. Price action is just poop. It's just so poopy. I shouldn't even have traded today. Well, are you blaming the price action or you? I had one of those days recently, and when I went back and journaled and looked at my entries and exits, I'm like, what was I doing? Why? I'm actually plan on having a video and sharing it, being like, what happened here? This was not my strategy. This is not how I trade. Right? But I could have just blamed the price action, but I decided to own it and say, you felt emotion, you didn't curve it, and you started making emotional decisions, and that's what happened. You got obliterated. Which, I mean, I didn't lose the account, so it's not obliterated. Plus, I've already pulled, payouts, and I would like to pull more instead of allowing myself to go down that emotional path and not pull out any more on that account. I would like to pull out some more. All right. So, do I treat trading like a performance activity or just a side hustle or a game? Which I know a lot of people are like, dude, if you treat trading like a game, that's what you need to do. Yes, I've heard that, and yes, I agree to that to some extent, but not like a gambling game, right? Not like a game of chance where you're throwing dice. A very strategic game, right? That you respond with logic, all right? And a performance activity. Are you putting in what it takes? A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't do what the 95% don't do that causes them to lose. So when I think about performance activity, one of the biggest things I think of is that journaling. And you can journal however you want, right? I'm not saying you have to sit down with a spreadsheet and, I'm not even talking data as much as I am talking emotional data, decision-driven data, those kinds of things. That's more of what I'm interested in. Yes, with your strategy, you should know about what you close. You should know about what your R&R is, and you should know those numbers. Those are very important. Don't get me wrong. But if you can't keep yourself under control emotionally to follow your plan, I can give you the greatest plan in the world, and if you can't follow it, then it's a waste of time. Throw it away, right? So take the time, put the performance activity, hard work in, and coach yourself, criticize yourself. Have someone that you're close enough to go, bro, I really blew it. I had to like look at a friend of mine, man. I've been trading for years. I had to look at him and be like, man, I took the greed index out of book, Jared Tendler. I'm off the charts. I think if he had, like an 11 scale, I would have been there, but I scored 10, which was the highest. I was almost embarrassed. I'm like, wow, I don't want Lambos and watches and expensive stuff, vacations. Like I'm not doing this for that. But it was my ambition that was fueling greed to the point that I couldn't even control it. So, but I had to look at myself to see that. And then I looked at a friend and said, this is what I'm struggling with, bro. And he was there for me. It was amazing. So, practical applications for day traders. All right, let's talk about own every trade. Own it. Own it. If you make a mistake on it, own it. If you don't make a mistake, own it. Own that trade. Journal all trades and document why you took them. That's important, right? Document your emotions, document everything, get your data. It's important, right? Eliminate excuses. Stop blaming the market, the news, tools, and focus on your own executions. Look at your executions on your chart. Look at them closely and see how those play out, right? Like, look at that. That's exactly what I did. I opened my chart and I looked at the executions and I was like, okay, that is not the strategy. That is not the market. That is not the news. That was the coffee again. It came back to get me. No, I'm just kidding. That was me. I was just FOMOing. I was, trailing my stop out of fear. Actually, one of the last calls I made after trying to clear my head, it was dead on, and it was good, and it was a great trade. It was within my strategy, but I trailed my stop out of fear because I had like 4 other stop outs. And so I started trailing and I got hit out, and then it went all the way to my target, which would have made back everything I lost and a bunch more. But you know what? I owned it and said, okay, that was that day. Next time, I'm hoping to do better. All right. So treat trading like a performance. Okay. Record your sessions, review decisions as an athlete would. Okay. So take the time to do this. This is what people don't want to do. 1, they don't want to talk about their emotions. And 2, they don't want to take the time to sit here and record their sessions or whatever, right? Or like go back over them and review the decisions that were made and why those decisions were made. People don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, but I do it. I do it. Usually if I have a good day and, I catch 2 trades and they're both on point and they were both my strategy, the review takes like 2 minutes. I do like think about, well, did I feel the FOMO? Yeah, I kind of felt it, but I didn't act on it. That's great. I waited for the entry, whatever, right? Fantastic. And then other days it's like, what happened? Price action was garbage. And I go back, I'm like, price action was on point. I was making garbage decisions. Own it. All right. Coach yourself daily. Talk to yourself. Set up performance goals based on behavior, not outcome. All right. You're not profitable. You're not profitable. You know that much. Okay. So stop worrying about your P&L and start setting performance goals based on behavior. I'm terrible with FOMO, so let me set up a goal where I don't FOMO. Okay. Or, I tend to revenge trade after a loss and I immediately take another loss right after. Okay. So take a loss and then take a break and then come back, right? That way you get a fresh trade, fresh TA, and you're not like reacting off of the trade. Now, a lot of times I do switch my bias and I will switch my trade from a long to a short almost within immediately, but that's a part of my plan. That is a part of my strategy. I am at a time-based liquidity. I am looking for the market to tell me what time-based liquidity it's going next, up or down, right? Whatever. So that's a part of it, and I do have to be careful because sometimes I tend to flip back and forth, because it's like I know I want to catch the run, and sometimes it consolidates at these levels, but that's where I need to pay close attention to my strategy, put my stop losses where they're supposed to be. All right. So build self-awareness, track recurring emotional patterns and reactions, right? In a weekly review. Talk to yourself. What do you struggle with the most? Is it FOMO or is it revenge trading, right? Figure it out. Is it fear? Okay. Jared Tendler's The Mental Game of Trading is going to be the next book. And he goes through a lot of this stuff in great detail. I've been through the book at least 3 times now, and it brought me out of one of the darkest places, right? These 2 books are people are like, what should I read? I'm like, Best Loser Wins and Jared Tendler's The Mental Game of Trading. If you're serious, those are the 2. All right. And there's a lot of great ones. I've read a lot of good ones, Market Wizards and, Trading in the Zone. I have some things I disagree with, but, a lot of it's really good. All right. So build the self-awareness, track recurring emotional patterns and reactions in a weekly review. Take the time to do this. You'll be surprised. And as you work on stuff, you'll be like, wow, I used to FOMO like crazy. Now it's kind of a rare occurrence. That's where I'm at. Sometimes that's why it sneaks up on me because it's been a while. You go on like a 6-month run where you're just killing it, and no, of course you don't win every single trade, but your close percentage is really high. And all of a sudden it's like, bam, 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 bam. It's like, what was that? It's like, oh, I allowed greed to creep in. I just didn't notice it. All right. These weekly reviews will keep you on track better. Okay. Athletes do this. Post game, pre game analysis, all this kind of stuff. It's important. All right. Action steps this week. Write out all the things you've blamed in the past and burn the list. I can't blame coffee anymore. Can't blame the market. Can't blame the news. Can't blame Trump. Can't blame this person, that person. Can't blame, I paid for these signals. I can't blame the signals. It's you. Take full responsibility. Own all the actions. Okay. When you own it, I'm telling you, it does something to your mind. Extreme Ownership, another good book written by Jocko. Go check it out. All right. Like I said, it's not really about trading, but it's a fantastic book. Okay. Set one behavioral goal. No revenge trades and measure it daily. Okay. If this is you, okay, then focus on one. Okay. Focus on the one that you have the most struggle with and get that under control. And then eventually you'll be like, okay, so I stopped revenge trading, but man, I FOMO like crazy. Okay, so now once you've got this under control, you can work on the FOMO, right? But what you'll have to make sure is that this doesn't sneak back in. All right, that's where I've had some trouble. A lot of times my original behaviors want to surface because what is it? Natural behavioral instinct for humans. Okay, and I have to keep that under control. That's where the weekly reviews come in. That's where constantly keeping up with yourself. It's important. If you're going to do this for like a career and you're going to be successful at it, it's not just going to be like, look at me, I learned enough, I can call the market. Wherever it goes, I go. No, man. I just, maybe one or two people in the world. All right. But I'm not trying to be the 0.000000001%. I'm trying to be in that top 5, 4, 3, 4, 5%, right? I want to be up there. Okay. I don't even have to be the top 1 or 2%. I don't have to be the number one scalper in the world. Like I said, I just want to be able to scrape some change out of the market because a little bit of change coming out of the market is big money for me. Okay. So end each session by asking, what was I the trader I want to become today? Wow, that didn't read too well, but you understand what I'm saying. Was I the trader I want to become today? Was I him? Was I the trader I wanted to be? Or was I the trader I know who's proved to himself that he gets wrecked? Which one am I today? Right? So after the session, go and review this. Okay? So create a sticky note. My results equal my responsibility. I'm going to get me another tattoo. I'm going to be covered in tattoos. People are like, where'd you get all these tattoos? Be like, oh, Tom Hougaard. So, extreme ownership. Own it. Your results, your responsibility. Nobody else's. If you take signals, take them. There's some good signals out there. They're very few. Okay, most signals are a scam. Just saying. But there are some that are good. I'm sure Tom Hougaard's are great. I usually just trade only NQ, so I don't trade as much as he does. But even if you take those, take full responsibility for them. Okay, final quote. Trying hard not to cough. It's crazy. When you take full responsibility, you take full control. You want to talk about that book, Extreme Ownership? There's a reason why those guys overseas doing what they do. They take full responsibility of everything that's going on. Those commanders and, those leaders over there that are Navy SEAL leaders, they take full responsibility because in their situations, it's life or death. They need to take full control. So why not do it with your trading? When you take full responsibility of you, your decisions, your trading, your exits, your entries, your everything, you take full control of your trading. The emotion will no longer control you. Still be there, but hopefully you will be the one in control. Anyways, I hope this video has been super helpful, guys. This is seriously, me making these videos, it's like the 3rd, 4th time I've gone through these, and then I get to write this up, and then I get to read it out and kind of study with you. It is helping me so much. So I'm hoping you're getting as much help as I do, because this is amazing. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. By the way, there's a download link below. You can download this and study it on your own. See ya.